Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Warcry 2.0. Before we get started, this is a fair yawning warning because I know some people get very upset when I yawn in my videos, so if you're one of those peoples, please just go and watch someone else. I do have a full job I need to work in other than YouTube, so it does happen that I get tired in the evenings. Anyways guys, let's get into this. First off, we got the Croxigore. He's 200 points, movement 6, toughness 4, 32 wounds. That is a very good profile so far. Movement 6 is great, 32 wounds, quite tough, for 200 points especially. His melee attacks are a range of 1, 2 attacks, strength 5, 3, 6 damage for 5 points of damage on average. That isn't that great. Honestly, if he was 3 attacks, he'd be a great model. As it is with 2 attacks, that is a little bit too swingy for me and just tends to not be that great. Then we have the Skink Handler. He's 45 points, very cheap, cheapest model in the warband. Movement 6, toughness 2, 8 wounds. So you're losing obviously he's, movement 6 is great, toughness 2 is not. 8 wounds, so he is gonna get killed by a lot of stuff. However, he does have a range of 2, which will keep him out of harm's way for a bit. 2 attacks, strength 3, 1, 4 damage. That's 1.7 damage on average, which is really not bad for a 45 point model. He's got the same damage output that a Saurus with Spear does, for example, and even a Cold One with Spear who's 115 points, more than double the points, almost 3 times the point cost. So, in terms of damage output, he's not bad. Also, he gets the ability to buff both the Salamander and the Lizardmen. So the Salamander is 130 points, movement 6, toughness 3, 20 wounds. That is very survivable for 130 points. 20 wounds is great at 130 point cost. He has a range of 7, 2 attacks, strength 3, 6 damage. That is the same you can expect from most magic casters. So, not the greatest range and not the greatest attack profile, because you do need to roll 5s and 6s on only 2 dice to really do any damage. However, he is only 130 points, so not too shabby there. Then we got the Lizardmen. He's a massive points jump to 170 points, so a 40 point jump. Movement 6 as well, toughness 4, 20 wounds, so a bit more survivable, which is only fair at 40 points on top over the Salamander. His range is 12 inches, which is nice. 5 attacks, strength 3, 1, 3 damage for 3.4 damage on average. So his damage is only slightly higher, but it is more reliable at 5 attacks. Also, more than that, he has the much better range and some more survivability. However, I still don't think that the Lizardmen is gonna be that much better than the Salamander. Because you can essentially bring the Salamander plus a Skink Handler for the same price as the Lizardmen. Then we got the Pterodon Chief and Ripidactyl Chief, so this is getting into the leader options now. Both of these are very similar to the Pterodon Alpha and the Ripidactyl Alpha. So, where's the Pterodon Alpha? Can't find him right now. Anyways, he exists, believe me. So the Ripidactyl Alpha, there he is, I'm sorry, costs 235 points, as does the Ripidactyl Chief. And as a matter of fact, they have the exact same stat lines, with one difference. The Chief has 3 wounds on top, so we are looking at 235 points for movement 10, toughness 4, 28 wounds, and the Fly rune mark, of course, and a range of 1, 4 attack, strength 4, 2, 4 damage for 5.4 damage on average. So the Ripidactyl Chief is quite good, because he's very fast, has decent damage output. It's not the highest, of course, but you do have to pay a price for flying and movement 10. The Pterodon Chief is even faster, 225 points, so 10 points less, but he has 2-inch movement more, and loses a point of toughness. So we're looking at toughness 3, but at 28 wounds he's still quite survivable. He does have a range of 1 for attack, strength 4, 2, 4 damage, so the same damage output as the Ripidactyl. I think the Ripidactyl might be slightly better because this added survivability is going to be good, and 2-inch movement doesn't make a huge difference when you're already 10-inch flying. Anyways, then we go to the Slann Starmaster. He's 250 points, a move of 4, toughness 4 and 32 wounds. Very survivable, this guy. And 4-inch movement obviously isn't great, but at least he can fly, so you can get him over obstacles quite easily. He does have a range of 12 inches, which is not bad. 3 attacks, strength 4, 3/6 damage. So this is a massive upgrade over the normal magic caster range attack. We do get a high range at 12 inches. We have 3 attacks instead of 2, 4 strength instead of 3, and we do keep the 3/6 damage for a nice 6 damage on average. So the Slann is doing a lot of damage at range there. He is very expensive as well though. Then we got the Saurus Oldblood, the Saurus Sunblood, and the Saurus Eternity Warden. I'm going to talk about these kind of at the same time because they are very similar. Both the Oldblood, so the Oldblood costs 200 points, the Sunblood 220, and the Eternity Warden 210. Both the Oldblood and the Sunblood have movement of 4, toughness 5, and 28 wounds. And the Eternity Warden only loses 1 point in toughness to go to toughness 4, also at movement 4 and 28 wounds though. And well, in the order of them being written down here, they increase their damage output. So the Saurus Oldblood has a pretty poor damage output of 4 points of damage because of his low attack characteristic of 3. The Saurus Sunblood is a lot more efficient there at 6 points of damage on average. However, he does cost quite a bit more, also due to that toughness 5, of course. Then we have the Eternity Warden, who's 210 points, so right in the middle between the Oldblood and the Sunblood. You do lose the 1 point in toughness, but you get a juicy 3 attack, strength 5, 3/6 damage for 7.6 damage on average, which is very sexy. So Saurus Eternity Warden, pretty solid model there. Yeah. So then we get our Scar Veteran on Cold One. He's 240 points, relatively expensive. Has a move of 7, which sounds good, but of course he's a mounted guy, so he can't climb. Has a toughness of 5 and 32 wounds. A range of 1, 4 attack, strength 4, 2, 4 damage. I think the issue with him is that you just have much better options. He does the same damage as your Ripidactyl Chief does. He's 5 points more expensive, and you don't really get anything good. Yes, he has 4 wounds more and a bit of toughness, but the Ripidactyl Chief is flying and 10-inch movement, so I'd take that trade any day. Therefore, Saurus Scar Veteran, not that great. Then we got the Saurus with Astrolith Bearer. He's 180 points, movement 4, toughness 4, 25 wounds. He has a range of 1, only 3 attacks at 4 to 4. That is not great damage output. However, do keep in mind that he does get his own unique ability. And then we have the King Starseer, Star Priest, and Priest, who are basically all the same thing, just slightly upgraded. So the Priest is basically the low tier, Star Priest middle tier, and Starseer the high tier. And actually the Starseer is already the budget version of the Slann. So for 185 points, we get a move of 4, toughness of 3, so lower toughness than the Slann there, and 20 wounds, so again a lot less survivable, a lot cheap as well though. He also has a range of 12, which is nice, only 2 attacks though, at strength 4 and 3/6 damage. That's 4 damage, which for a ranged attack isn't even that bad. But it feels a lot worse than the damage output of the Slam. Then we got our Skink Star Priest. He's 170 points, almost as expensive. He has a move of 6, which is nice because he's not riding a flying stool. Toughness 3 as well, 18 wounds. He only has a range of 7 though. For the box standard magic attack, 7-inch range, 2 attack, strength 3, 3-6 damage. It's just not very good, so I don't like this Skink Star Priest much. Then we got the Skink Priest. He's 145 points, which is very cheap for a leader. His movement 6, toughness 3, 18 wounds as well. Quite squishy. Has a range of 7, 2 attacks, strength 3, only 2-5 damage, so he's even worse in terms of damage output. But he's very cheap, so if you just want to spam a lot of units and want to go with the cheapest possible leader, well, he's a choice to be made. Don't think he's the best one though. Anyways guys, let's hop over to our point analysis, and as we can see, the Croxigore is decent damage per point value, as I said. He'd really stand out if he had 1 attack more. That would make him a lot more useful. He's quite survivable as well though. As I said, like his movement survivability stuff, that's all great. The issue is his damage output. Then we have the Skink Handler, who's of course great point value, just for the reason that he is super cheap. Then we got Salamander Razordon. No surprises with their point value not being as great. They do shoot range attacks. It's perfectly normal for ranged guys not to have the greatest damage output. And then we have the Pterodon Chief, Reptactyl Chief. Kind of same story for them, only difference is that they are flying and have a lot of movement, which is what they are paying points for, and therefore again can't expect the highest damage out of those guys. Yeah, then I'm just gonna highlight the specials here. We have the Eternity Warden, who, as I said, really good damage output. 7.6 is great. For the points cost 210 points, great model. In terms of damage output, he does have drawbacks, of course, for example only being movement 4 and not getting any special abilities. Now, what new abilities did we get? Speaking of that, we did get a new double for the Skink Handler. He can poke a beast within 2 inches of him and make it attack again. So the Beast Rune Mark is only on the Salamander and the Razordon, so those are the only 2 that can benefit from this ability. But it's a nice buff, so you can give this to either of them and they will get an extra attack, which really isn't that bad. Then we got a double for our Skinks, which is the Starseer, the Star Priest, and the Priest. They can pick 1 enemy within 8 inches of them, roll a number of dice equal to the value of the ability, and each 4+ deals 1 damage, each 6 deals 3. It's okay. Honestly, on a melee focused warband, I think this would not be a bad ability. However, in this warband you already have a lot of ranged potential. All of these 3 guys themselves are ranged fighters, so I don't know that it's so important to have another ability to deal damage at range. Then we got a double for all the fighters, which sadly is just a very boring. After killing something you get it to make a bonus move or bonus attack. We've seen this ability so many times, it's very much overused in Warcry. I wish they would stop using it for warbands, but alas, here we are. Then we got a double for the Pterodon Chief. It adds half the value to his movement. That is not a bad ability, but it's definitely not an ability you need on a unit that is 12-inch and flying, because the most you're gonna get out of that is 3 extra inches of movement, and let's be honest, 3 inches isn't that much when you already have 12. So it might come in handy situationally, but it's not going to be great for most circumstances. Now we come to the ability that I enjoy most in this warband, which is the triple for the Slan. The Slan gets a triple to teleport a unit within 12 inches of him, so he can pick any of his friendly models within 12 inches of him and place him anywhere around him within the distance of the value of the ability. So if this was a triple 3, I could place the fighter within 3 inches of myself and pulling him 12 inches away. That is pretty cool. I think this is gonna be one of the better abilities for sure. Then we got a quad for the Astrolith Bearer. He can heal all friendly units within 6 inches of him by the value of the ability. Potentially that could be a lot of damage healed, but the issue is that in Warcry normally people focus single models because there's no point in spreading damage around. Fighters don't lose anything like of their strength by being damaged, so normally you want to focus stuff. So realistically, oftentimes you're just gonna heal one unit next to you, and healing a unit for a quad is not gonna be worth it. So that's that. Let's have a look at ability. At a list then. So this is the list I came up with. As you can see, we are 10 models, which is already pretty significant and gonna put you in the higher tier of model counts, which is good for activation wars. We do have a Slan Starmaster in here, so that's a quarter of our warband already. He is just good. He has a lot of damage potential at range, so you can poke even like heavy duty stuff at range with this guy, and it's gonna be quite useful. Yeah, and on top of that you get his triple ability, which is just awesome. So I really like the Slan Starmaster. Then we go with a Pterodon Chief. Why the Pterodon and not the Ripidactyl? Well, mainly for points. Reasons: he's just 10 points cheaper than the Ripidactyl could just fit in the Ripidactyl, but to be honest it doesn't make a huge difference. He's 225 points and he just gives you that high mobility, that option to hunt something down that you really need to hunt down, pin something down, grab a treasure and run away with it. He's just gonna be a linebacker. So having that one super high movement model is always fantastic. And last but not least, we're going 8 skinks with blowpipes. I know this is kind of boring. They are just very, very point efficient. 65 points, super cheap, lots of movement, good range at 12 inches, good damage output at 1.7 for their points cost. They are just very, very good models, very solid stuff. I was thinking about maybe going Salamander and Skink Handler, for example, but Salamander plus Skink Handler, well, just a Salamander on its own costs exactly double of the skinks with blowpipes, and he does less than double the damage. So if I double their damage, it's 3.2, 3.4 even, and that's just more than the Salamander's 3.1 damage. So already we're at a disadvantage there, and also the skinks get to give you extra activations to win the activation war. So I think the skink with blowpipes still win out in this respect, and even getting a skink handler on top, obviously that makes the salamander more powerful, but that costs you another skink with blowpipe, and I just struggle to see how that's gonna be better than having 8 more models on the field. So after all, I think this is gonna be a very competitive list. I also encourage you not to play it against anyone you want to stay friends with. So if this is your wife, probably a bad choice. If this is a good friend of yours who you know can take the harm or plays competitively, sure, go for it. If it's a good friend of yours who you want to get into wargaming, absolutely do not play this list. Anyways guys, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.